Hey, it's me again. Today is Sunday, January 30th. Tomorrow's the 31st. Okay, Groundhog Day is on Wednesday the 2nd. So today we're going to recap the Maverick acquisition of the ConocoPhillips. So as we all know, and we studied this case before together, and I went through the numbers, ConocoPhillips had acquired a shell asset back in July. They acquired the asset in July. They took control of the asset in July. The sale wasn't announced until September 15th. And we looked at other case studies where sometimes it was 4 months. Usually in acquisitions, as we've talked about, the company that's buying comes in and acquires the asset. They'll kick the tires around for a bit. And then after a few months, an announcement will be made to buy the property. This was the case with Shell and ConocoPhillips. ConocoPhillips then had to sell some other properties to help offset the cost of this property. One of those being some property in the Permian Basin with Texas and New Mexico. So at the same time ConocoPhillips was doing the Shell agreement, ConocoPhillips was selling the Permian Basin assets. Not all of them, just a little bit. It was only 144,000 acres. And who bought them but none other than our own Maverick, Maverick Operating, which is an EIG-backed company. We've discussed that. And we've discussed how Torchlight and Maverick have a history together. In fact, Maverick was doing the drilling recently. And because they took control of the assets in September, the sale was just announced Friday. And Terry's tweet, I'll post it here. Terry, by the dip Terry, he tweeted this and I saw it. And I was like, whoa, Terry's been on it for Permian things. But he posted it, and immediately when I saw it, it clicked. Why the drilling was so far behind. Why are we waiting so long for this drilling? And I'm like, I know how long it takes to drill some test wells. You know, why is it taking so long? Well, this sort of explains it. That our drilling contractor, Maverick, was a little bit busy, testing out and acquiring this property. And equipment could have been used there. And we were just waiting for that to come. But luckily it came, and luckily they did finish the drilling. They did complete that, as stated by Meta official newsletter on December 13th. But immediately, that kind of explains why they were behind the drilling. Again, why didn't they tell us? Because oil is hush-hush. Oil is hush-hush. And Maverick, probably told Hudspeth Operating or the management team, Nextbridge, whoever it is, they probably told them, we're lack of truck drivers right now because oil's hush-hush. Unfortunately, Ken said COVID in the interviews. Ken and George, they both said COVID. But that might have been what they were told. But again, they're not oil people. And they've said that time and time again. They're not oil people. They're not energy people. We know that the world of oil is very hush-hush. And you can only go by saying, sorry, that there's lack of drivers right now. The trucks are delayed. But I will say this, there is a distinct lack of drivers. Because going to the feed store, there's a lack of drivers for the mills. So one of the mills out here that I get my feed from is called Thomas More Feed. And they are experiencing a lack of truck drivers right now. As a result, shipments get delayed into my feed store, and as a result, people will immediately buy out all the feed. And you go in there, it's like a ghost town in the feed store, and they're out of everything. And they're like, okay, the guy said he'll be here tomorrow, so come. And it's like Monday. He's like, he'll be here tomorrow. Come back Friday, because that's how delayed they are. But this immediately made sense for me why the drilling took so long. Again, oil's hush-hush. And, the Meta team, the Meta PR team probably did not know. They're not oil people. But this, again, just 100% explains why drilling was far behind. So ConocoPhillips and EIG are now, well, EIG with Maverick. Did EIG finance this purchase for $440 million? Surprisingly, no. But I bet you they were the grantor of this loan. EIG has financed Maverick. They've financed a whole bunch of other things. They have the money. But who financed this was interesting. Well, not really. It was Chase Bank and a plethora of other investors. Some of them, which are like the Canada's in on this, which really interesting. Terms of loan, right? Terms of loan. They bought this for $440 million. And as you read the article, the loan's up to $500 million because oil is pretty volatile right now. It's not super volatile, but it's going up and up and up. So just for wiggle room, it's for 144,000 acres. Again, I'm not looking at anything. I'm looking at my camera so I can be more personable, and I'm just reciting this from memory. And then I'll go back and edit with pictures. That's how I do it. I don't look at anything because I tend to squint when I'm reading. And I want to be as personable as possible. So I do this is all from memory, and then I go back. It's 144,000 acres, and that's not contiguous. That's not contiguous property. Our Orogrande Basin is one, well, it's like that. It's actually shaped like that. It's not shaped like this, it's shaped like that. That's how our Orogrande, it's a big contiguous block. This is not. This is like, pepper chunks and hunks. Looks like you took spaghetti sauce and went blap on the counter. And it spans 4 counties. What kind of land is this? I want to say it's pretty developed land. Now, the amounts that they give on here, I can't really estimate how much oil and gas is on this property because I don't see anything else in the current production for September. That's what they are giving me. Were they at full capacity then? Was it at partial capacity? How developed are these properties? Looking at the maps for the counties, they're pretty developed. The least developed of those 4 counties listed is Lea County, New Mexico. But all the other counties, here's a picture. All those white dots are where oil wells are. And if you zoom in, there's a derrick right there. And it's pumping away. That's what that is what your production well looks like. It's a little derrick pumping away. And a fun fact about Ecto County, Texas, it has its own Stonehenge replica. I want to go there now. They're the place with the Stonehenge replica. Hooray! I want to go there because I want to see the replica of Stonehenge. So it's not a continuous property. I'm not sure how developed or what is left reserve-wise in this property. If you backtrack the math based on my methods, there's about, there could be as much as 80, this is on average, there could be as much as about 80 million barrels per oil equivalent on those properties. That could be the case. But again, I'm not sure, and I don't feel as comfortable doing the math with this particular case because we don't have enough information. The previous cases, we had enough information where we could estimate it. This one, we only have one production for one particular month. And Maverick is a private company. It's an equity-backed private entity, and we might not find that information. The nice thing about Shell ConocoPhillips is they're public, and they have this information on their investor presentation. They had a meeting about it, and they demonstrated, their acquisition to the banks and the top tier 1 and tier 2 analysts, and they were all like clapping at that meeting. This one, I'm not sure. Again, Maverick is a private company because it's backed by EIG. So this gives me hope. It also makes me want to think about potential, this is long-term, potential future deals with Nextbridge Oilco and ConocoPhillips. ConocoPhillips is going to be aggressively expanding and they're releasing the new dynamic dividend program, which Terry's also been looking into, the dynamic dividend. So historically, oil companies, when they have a dividend, is they pay you the money, and if they have a lot of profits left over, they don't want to give you a big giant divvy, because what happens is then people sell off their stock. They take the divvy, they sell off their stock, or they jump in to get this divvy. Then they sell the stock immediately. So what oil companies do to prevent that is they give a regular dividend or a slightly increased dividend, but then they do share buybacks, right? They buy back, and we've talked about buyback in December. I remember that. We talked about share buyback season, and we went through what companies were buying what stock. But ConocoPhillips is going to be expanding with the dynamic dividend. They're expecting much larger cash flows. Again, they have that former Shell property that's pretty developed. It makes me think that, is ConocoPhillips, and now ConocoPhillips and EIG have a deal done with each other. It makes me wonder if, ConocoPhillips is going to get on the Orogrande. I've also been looking into, I sponsored spin-outs, of course, where you get half the divvy money. And then what if another company acquires that too? Another percentage of that, like the other 50% afterwards, right? Another company comes in and acquires part of the spin out. I've been looking into it, and here's the document I've been reading. This particular document is from 2020, so it's much more updated. It goes through IRS rules and charts. Here's a lovely chart, and it talks about timelines. It talks about the 355, 5-year, 2-year rule, but it also talks about this in chart form, which makes me go, And a lot of this comes down to a nod and yes. But then again, you have to meet all these testing agreements. But if it's stock, if you exchange it for stock, you don't have to meet these testing agreements. So it makes me wonder if, after you get the part 1, the cash, like I've said, let's focus on part 1 before we go to part 2 of this dividend, because, once I see this paperwork, we'll have a way better understanding, and it won't get so confusing. But it makes the rusty gears in my head turn. That's why you're hearing a grinding noise, is the gears in my head are kind of squeaking around up there. Is is ConocoPhillips going to come in, and get some of our assets, like get a stake in our Orogrande, then we get stock for that. It seems, according to this chart, that might satisfy everything post spin out. Which would be cool. I mean, a lot of people will be thrilled with ConocoPhillips stock, and the price has been rising. If the dividend is what I calculated out to be, it would be like 2 to 3 MMTLPs per 1 ConocoPhillips right now. Which serendipitously sort of would dovetail into the current oil conversion rate. Which I had talked about with, and I'll cite his name, MMTL Metamaterial Jedi, MMAT Jedi. I'll cite him. Here's his Twitter handle. We were talking about this because he was curious, and I was like, yeah, we've been thinking about that, and he actually brought up the oil conversion rate with the current stock price, so I'll cite him on that. And I'm like, that actually does work with the cash element. And then with that conversion rate, it would equal out to, like I said, same part. It'd be tax free as long as you didn't sell Conoco. If you kept Conoco, tax free for you. If you sold Conoco, of course, you got to pay tax. But so it's really interesting. But again, guys, what I want to do is we're going to focus on divvy part 1. Let's get to divvy part 1. And let's look at the paperwork of that spin out. We're going to once that spin out happens, we're going to be dissecting this paperwork. But in the meantime, here's this paper I've been reading. Feel free to take a look and read all 65 pages of it. Let me know what you think. let's look at this chart. This chart is from page 69. Easy enough to remember. And tell me what you think and maybe how this can apply to the situation. Always, looking for other people to help me on this. Like I said, I'm digging in, on the possible playouts, how this could go, possible playouts. Again, I'm the kid who always tried to guess their Christmas presents. So I want to know possible playouts of this. So I can be prepared. I can manage my time. In other news, let's end this on a good note like George Costanza. So Allie from Trading Secrets, shout out to Allie. He, in his latest video, talked about the ILUS meeting. And we know that I like ILUS. I've done ILUS DD. I say ILUS is terrific for the retail shareholder. They care so highly about their retail shareholders. They have monthly YouTube updates. They're going to do their dividend in the form of a cool blockchain where you have control of where the money goes in the company, or it can go to you. This cool blockchain coin type thing. And they had a physical shareholder meeting with snacks and stuff. I really like ILUS. And Allie from Trading Secrets posted the updated meeting. Somebody went to the meeting and they posted minutes. And look what Allie said. He's like, oh, yes, 911 inform. And I saw this and I was like, 911 inform? I know somebody who's in 911 inform. It's our very own John Brda. Our friend John Brda. I should say he's in 911 inform. To what extent, I don't know. Is he venturing 911 inform? What kind of role he has. But John Brda, who's involved with 911 inform. And 911 inform now has a partnership with ILUS. How serendipitous. And I got really excited. And look how aggressive ILUS is being in the next year. And I also wondered if, some of those ILUS firefighting hose technology or firefighting aerators on the hose, if those could be used also in the oil industry for fracking water tanks, for aerating fracking water tanks. And I was watching a video about, fracking water recycling this weekend because I'm boring like that. And seeing those fracking water aerators, it made me think about ILUS and their fire hoses. And I'm like, I wonder if this could be adapted. Is there a market here? Okay, guys, that's news for today. We'll see what the market brings tomorrow. I'm hoping there will be an announcement before MMTLP is taken off the market. I'm hoping there will be an announcement. So, as far as how much of a, ahead of time announcement that they need, it doesn't have to be anything, really, because it's OTC. So, we'll see. I will see you guys soon. Goodbye.